I just want to say a quick thanks to you guys for all the support you've shown on the last video. It was great chatting to you guys and getting to know your thoughts on Valhalla. And like always, if you could just leave a like and consider subscribing, it'd be greatly appreciated. 8 years. 8 years we've been stuck inside this matrix, waiting, dreaming. It's arrived. And this is no time to sleep. And to you I say, wake up, samurai. It's time to play one of the greatest games you'll ever play. So after 3 complete playthroughs of this game, and a hell of a lot of hours spent on this game, I'm finally ready to tell you just why this is hands down one of the most fantastic games I've played to date. And yes, I will admit, the game is fairly buggy, but I'm going to ignore this because they're actually choosing to patch it constantly, updating the game to allow it to run better and smoother for everyone. It's funny how a lot of people are just harsh on the game for its buggy state it's in, when you could compare it to something like Skyrim, which is just as buggy and never got a patch after its launch. So I think people need to be a little more appreciative of their willingness to update and fix the game rather than just leave it in the state that it is. Obviously we don't want to approve games being launched in a super unplayable buggy state, because then most developers will start doing it. But at the same time, we need to appreciate the fact that they're willing to improve the game. Anyway, mini rant over, let's get into the review. I will of course start with a disclaimer that will be minor spoilers in terms of gameplay and maybe some small story elements, but no major spoilers will be shown. In the main story, you play as V, a mercenary living in Night City, fighting to survive in the city with the highest crime rate in the entire world. The main story is really fun and interesting. Maybe it's just my obsession with the setting, but I loved every second of it. I never once felt like it was boring or being dragged out. Sure, there was moments where there would be a little action and a lot of story building, but that's what role-playing games are meant to be like, and it's never once felt annoying or out of place. The characters are likable and real. You get a real sense of what they've had to experience and go through, even if you're not there to witness what it is. There are some very forgettable side quests, but there are some really memorable ones as well, like Delamain's cabs or the ride on the roller coaster with Johnny. One of the coolest features about this game, and is probably the reason I loved replaying the game so much, was that you actually get to choose your backstory and how this would affect your interactions with certain characters in the world. So when you start a new game, you essentially get to choose between being raised as a nomad in the outskirts of Night City, raised as a street kid in Night City, or as a corporate working for a mega corporation within Night City itself. Each do have their own mini intro that then leads into the main story. However, the coolest thing is that these choices change dialogue options. They change the way you can interact with NPCs and how they respond back. For example, using a street kid line when talking to somebody that's from a corporation, it might not impress them. It might even irritate them or upset them. It's these minor details that make the story in the game so enjoyable. Sure, there isn't a lot of decisions to make regarding the campaign. A lot of it is set in stone. It's a matter of determining how you're going to go about certain missions rather than what the end result will be. You may get the same outcome as I did in a mission, but the way you achieve that outcome could be entirely different to the way I achieved that same outcome. Cyberpunk's story is honestly one of its strongest points. I really enjoyed it, and all the little details and information out in the world just helps to create this sense of feeling alive, like the world is real, it's enjoyable. Of course, when you see the bugs, it is immersion breaking and it ruins that goes straight out the window. But when you don't encounter bugs, you've got this beautiful city that looks believable and it looks like you're there, playing as V herself. Do I really have to say anything? I mean, look at this. It speaks for itself. There is no denying how fantastic this game looks. The graphics and the details and the way they have used the lighting just creates this great sense of atmosphere no matter where you are in the world. In the streets of Night City or out in the country, the game looks stunning. That is, of course, if you're playing on PC. On console, it's a whole nother story. On the older generations, PS4 and Xbox One, it's really unplayable. The graphics and the way the game is set up just means these older consoles really struggle to run the game. In my opinion, I'm surprised they bothered to launch them on these games, on these older generations. They simply shouldn't have released them until the newer generations like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and called it a day. The new generation definitely don't look as good as they do on PC, but they look good enough to make the experience fun and enjoyable. The game can actually run and even showcase a real beautiful Night City. The world design of Night City is fantastic. The large open world is split up into multiple districts that each have unique styles and distinct feelings to them, which helps to paint a picture about the district's story. From the beautiful Japantown to the filthy slums, every district is distinct and memorable. Night City is also really well connected. There are plenty of roads and paths for the player to take that allow for some really cool areas to explore, as you can come across hidden items and gears, help fight crime out in the world, and even find yourself some free cars to pick up. There is plenty to find in Night City. It's hands down my favorite open world map, and that's a crazy thing. It's not even that complete. There are certain areas on the map that are partially there, but they're inaccessible at the moment. Whether that's due to them running out of time to add them into the game, or have them there for future updates, the world is only going to get bigger and more expansive, richer with more things to do and more places to explore. I know for me, I just love driving around Night City and looking at it all. It was just fantastic to take it all in, but this leads me to something that bugged me a lot more in this game than it probably should have, and that would be the vehicle handling. The cars and bikes handle shockingly. Everything slides out uncontrollably. Maybe it's just because I play a lot of racing games, both arcade and realistic, but I was just a little disappointed with the way they handled it in this game. On the flip side, there are some absolutely amazing looking cars in this game. Some really nice looking designs that made me feel like an absolute boss when driving them around. Now I know that sounds lame, but there are some areas in this that I remember driving through, stopping at, and then just etched in my brain. The visuals of this game are truly sensational, and the world itself is definitely worth exploring. The combat is pretty much what you'd expect if you played Skyrim. There's a wide variety of weapons to use, each with their own benefits and drawbacks. It's pretty much a standard combat system from any other RPG. Similar to Borderlands, there is a somewhat random nature to the weapons and mods and attachments. Obviously, it doesn't live up to the sheer amount of weapon variety that Borderlands has, but there's enough to create enough diversity in your builds and the way you want to play the game. I will say though, a lot of the guns are just reskins of the same models with different stats, perks and mod slots, but there are some legendary items for you to collect that are pretty damn cool. Apart from guns, there is also a variety of melee weapons that you can use, again just breaking up and changing the possibilities of how you want to play the game. I honestly had the most fun with the samurai sword. It just felt so satisfying slicing off people's heads and going around just absolutely butchering everyone. I know, I'm a psychopath, I said the same thing in Valhalla, but it really is just that satisfying. The game has some great systems that really allow you to customize and create pretty fun and interesting builds, with mods that can change stats such as increased crit chance, to mods that change how you play entirely, such as non-lethal mods. The potentials you have in this game through mixing guns and melee weapons, lethal and non-lethal, blunt and sharp, is really fantastic and probably one of the game's strongest points, and everyone will have different weapons that they like to use. But there is one minor issue, and that's when you reach a certain point in your build. You end up doing ridiculous damage, that it makes the combat super easy. It's rewarding for sure to see your build reach its full potential. However, you pretty much go around one-shotting everyone, which can lose some of the fun factor, even on higher difficulties, which is what I played on. There isn't much of a challenge, and you lose the satisfaction that you got from overcoming difficult fights. Early on, and for most of the playthrough, this isn't the case. But if you're someone like me who likes to complete everything, You'll most certainly run into this at one point or another. Do I think it's a bad thing? Not really. I think it's more of a satisfying thing to see the build come together in the way that it does. It also feels rewarding and fulfilling, but it does lose that element of a challenge in the gameplay. The stealth in this game is somewhat refreshing. It's similar to games like Far Cry and Dishonored, but offers you various ways to distract, interact, and deceive guards and enemies. A lot of the hacking stuff allows you to disrupt guards' vision, hearing, or even hack vending machines to make distractions. I'm glad they haven't just gone with what they have in other games like Far Cry, like throwing a rock or whistling in order to attract a guard to a certain location. It's a nice change of pace and is refreshing, but nothing revolutionary. Overall, I think Cyberpunk 2077 is most certainly a game worth picking up. Its story is top notch, with some diverse paths and different dialogue options which might not impact the world but do help to change playthroughs to create diversity, making it really interesting to replay through the game. The visuals and world design are honestly one of the best that I've ever seen in any other game. Right up there with Horizon Zero Dawn's world design and visuals, it's just fantastic. It's so believable and it's really easy to get immersed into the world. The combat is diverse, with a wide range of guns and melee weapons, capable of fulfilling different roles. Pair this with the mods and it allows for some great build diversity and really lets you, the player, decide how you want to play. This is one of those games you have to play. Don't watch someone else's playthrough, go out and buy it. Make the decisions you want to make. Play the game that you want to play, and Cyberpunk 2077 is hands down one of the all-time greatest games I've ever played. Thanks for watching. If you could leave a like and subscribe, it'd be very much appreciated, as well as let me know your thoughts on the comment section down below.